Thanks for joining us here on the CBN News Channel. I'm Ephraim Graham. The deadly attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi is back in the spotlight on Capitol Hill this week. 3 officials will testify before a government committee investigating the attack. Republicans charge the Obama administration is covering up mistakes in its response to the attack and the aftermath. As George Thomas shows us, one high State Department official will challenge the White House's account.
3 men, all career State Department employees, will testify this week that the White House misled the country on what happened at the U.S. diplomatic mission in Benghazi, Libya. One of them is Gregory Hicks. He was the number 2 man in Libya. He will tell Congress that he knew immediately the attack wasn't in response to a protest. According to interview transcripts, Hicks says, "I thought it was a terrorist attack from the get-go. I think everybody in the mission thought it was a terrorist attack from the beginning." U.S. Ambassador to Libya Chris Stevens died in the attack along with 3 other Americans. Yet 5 days after the attack on September 11, 2012, UN Ambassador Susan Rice went on multiple Sunday shows blaming the incident on an anti-Muslim video that appeared on the internet. She insisted the attack was spontaneous. Some Republicans say the administration's response was calculated, coming on the heels of a presidential election less than 2 months away.
Well, clearly there was a political decision to say something different than what was reasonable to say.
Hicks will also testify that a small team of U.S. Special Forces were ready to fly a rescue mission to Benghazi, but were ordered to stand down. This directly contradicts the White House, which said all available resources were explored to respond to the attacks. This past weekend, several Democrats said Rice's comments about the attack were wrong, and that references to Islamic extremists and Al-Qaeda were scrubbed from her so-called talking points. Some Republicans accused the Obama administration of trying to downplay the threat posed by terrorists.
There's sort of a tendency to underplay what is in fact, I think, a growing and pretty dangerous and to some extent a different kind of threat than what we were facing, 3 or 4 years ago.
Hicks has also told investigators that Ambassador Rice's response may have hampered efforts to capture those responsible for the Benghazi attacks, saying, "I firmly believe that the reason it took us so long to get the FBI to Benghazi is because of those Sunday talk shows." Hicks and the 2 State Department employees will speak publicly for the first time Wednesday when they appear before Congress. George Thomas, CBN News.
The White House says it does not believe Syrian rebels use chemical weapons in their war against the government. Spokesman Jay Carney says it's more likely the Syrian President Assad is the culprit. That is in response to a United Nations report released Monday that claims the rebels did use chemical weapons. A chief investigator says they found evidence the Free Syrian Army used the nerve agent sarin. The UN says they cannot yet offer concrete proof of the weapons being used. The rebel forces deny the claim. One head of the FSA calls the allegations a huge injustice. We spoke with Daniel Pletka at the American Enterprise Institute. She says she agrees with the White House.
We've had 2 statements out of the Obama administration today, one from the State Department and one from the Department of Defense, saying that they believe that those chemical weapons were used by regime elements. I am fully confident that they were used by the regime.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State John Kerry is in Russia today to meet with President Putin, hoping to persuade him to take a tougher stance against his Syrian ally. The Obama administration is accusing China's military of carrying out computer-based attacks against the U.S. The accusations come in the Pentagon's annual report to Congress. The report says China is using cyber capabilities to collect intelligence against U.S. diplomatic, economic, and defense programs. It warned the computer skills needed for this kind of espionage is similar to the kind needed to conduct cyber warfare. This is the first time the U.S. has so directly accused the Chinese government and its military of using cyber weapons to steal U.S. government strategy. I want to turn now to a miraculous story out of Ohio. 3 Cleveland women who went missing about 10 years ago have been found. They're recovering in the hospital this morning while police search for answers. Mark Martin has the story.
3 cold cases involving 3 missing women are now amazingly solved. Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus have all been located.
It's a miracle of God. It's nothing short of a miracle. I just broke into joyful tears. Gina did remember everyone. She asked for her brother and sister and her nieces that they all lived with.
The women were found in this house on a quiet Cleveland street after a neighbor heard one of them scream for help.
And I look and I see this girl, and she just going nuts on the door. We had to kick open the bottom. Luckily on that door it was aluminum, it was cheap. And she climbed out with her daughter. She went to my house, we called 911.
Hello, please. Help me, I'm Amanda Berry. I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years and I'm here, I'm free now.
Amanda Berry, now 27, disappeared in 2003, the day before her 17th birthday. Inside the house, police also found Gina DeJesus, missing since age 14, and Michelle Knight, who vanished in 2002 at the age of 21. Doctors at a Cleveland hospital are examining the women for possible abuse.
Currently, they're safe. We're in the process of evaluating their medical needs. They appear to be in fair condition at the moment.
Police say 3 Hispanic brothers in their 50s are in custody. Investigators now look for evidence.
She said they're doing really well, and they're just skinny, but they're fine. It's just so surreal right now. It's just unbelievable. I just can't even believe this after all these years, and it was right down the street from my grandmother's house.
The women and a 6-year-old also found in the home are now reunited with relatives. They say they're grateful their prayers have been answered. Mark Martin, CBN News.
The FBI says it foiled a homegrown terror plot in Minnesota. Agents reportedly discovered a cache of explosives and weapons in a mobile home. 24-year-old Buford Rogers is currently being charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm. A judge ordered him held until a hearing Wednesday, citing, quote, serious concerns raised in the criminal complaint. The FBI says the raid potentially saved the lives of several local residents. The investigation involved local, state, and federal authorities. Congress will begin this week to try to make big cuts in the federal criminal code. Some lawmakers charge the criminal code has become so big, every American over age 18 has broken some law without even knowing it. John Waggy explains.
The House Judiciary Committee will oversee a new task force called the Overcriminalization Task Force of 2013. Wisconsin Congressman James Sensenbrenner will lead the task force. Sensenbrenner has long been a critic of the huge volume of criminal statutes and tens of thousands of regulations that mandate both fines and, in some cases, prison time for Americans who often don't know they're breaking the law. Virginia Congressman Bobby Scott will be the ranking Democrat on the task force.
The past 20 or 30 years, the number of people in jails and prisons in America has gone up almost tenfold because every time you turn around, there are new laws.
In 2003, federal agents raided and ransacked the home of Texas retiree George Norris and his wife Kathy. George spent a year and a half in federal prison, charged with selling what the government thought were endangered orchids. He ended up being convicted on a paperwork violation, but he suffered declining health and had to spend their savings fighting the charges.
The country that I grew up in was not like this. And I've lost the country I love. And I don't know how to help get it back.
Policy analyst Paul Larkin is a former Department of Justice attorney and a former criminal enforcement agent at the EPA.
Only when the public gets outraged about this will something happen. Only then will you see prosecutors not prosecute these cases. Only then will you see Congress not pass any more laws.
With the partisan divide in Washington deeper than ever, this bipartisan task force may actually get somewhere. Groups as diverse as the Conservative Heritage Foundation, the liberal ACLU, and the Libertarian Cato Institute are all supporting reform of the federal criminal code. And the task force will no doubt hear many more stories of victims of a government wielding too much prosecuting power against its citizens. John Waggy, CBN News.
A Bible publishing company has scored a victory in its fight against the president's contraception mandate, and it may owe that victory to the White House. The Alliance Defense Fund says the government requested a federal appellate court dismiss its own appeal of a court order. That order blocked the president from enforcing his abortion pill mandate against Tyndale publishers. That means the order will stand while Tyndale's case moves forward in court. Coming up, religious riots rock Bangladesh. Why these folks believe they need stronger laws to protect their faith.
Today we're on a field trip to discover what inflation is doing to our paper money. In this hand is a $20 bill, and in this hand is a $20 U.S. gold coin. They used to have the same buying power, but how much can they buy today? In this first basket is what my $20 bill buys: milk, bread, peanut butter, and jelly. And here's what one $20 gold coin will buy: 6 baskets full, worth nearly $2,000, almost 100 times more food, simply by owning gold dollars instead of paper dollars. History shows that the gold coins have been the best way to beat the rising cost of living. So class, the moral is that unless you want to live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the future, you should turn some paper dollars into gold coins now. How and why is explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. Call the number below for a totally free copy. And that's the simple truth.
If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was.
Help!
And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes now.
Tanzanian police have arrested 6 people, including 4 Saudi Arabians, in the investigation of a church bombing in Arusha. 3 people died and nearly 60 were wounded when a motorcyclist tossed a bomb into St. Joseph's Catholic Church Sunday. The town is popular with tourists going on safari near Mount Kilimanjaro. Militant Islamists have attacked at least 30 Tanzania churches in the past 2 years. Terrorists also murdered a Pentecostal pastor and a Catholic priest last February. At least 15 people died as protesters took to the streets of Bangladesh last weekend. The Islamic demonstrators are demanding the government enforce strict Islamic law. The government has stated it will remain secular and won't enact legislation like an anti-blasphemy law. Such laws are often used to persecute people of other faiths. The rise of religious extremism is largely to blame for an increase in persecution of religious minorities around the world. That's the conclusion of a U.S. government panel. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom says extremists target religious minorities for violence. Governments that fail to protect victims or even take part in persecution contribute to the problem. Recently, CBN's George Thomas spoke with Knox Thames, Director of Policy and Research at the U.S. CIRF, about the details of that report.
Who are these religious extremists and who are their victims?
Well, it's a trend that we've noticed spans the globe, affecting countries as diverse as Nigeria and Burma, Pakistan and East Africa. These groups are often motivated by an extremist religious ideology that attack the religious other, either those within their own faith group who don't adhere to their extreme worldview, or religious minorities who are from a different faith community.
And apparently this is especially happening in the so-called Arab Spring countries like Egypt, Syria, and Libya. What does the Commission recommend the U.S. government do to protect religious minorities there?
Well, I think this is one of the biggest challenges facing the United States in our diplomacy internationally. We've recommended that the United States designate 15 countries as the worst violators of religious freedom, including Egypt. In the context of Egypt, it's because of government action and inaction. Government persecuting people under blasphemy-like laws, but also allowing street gangs to attack religious minorities like the Coptic Christian Church with impunity. And it's time for our government to let Cairo know that we want to see those violations end, and we should designate accordingly.
And let's talk about, you mentioned blasphemy laws. Right now, there's a Christian mother of 3 who's in jail in Pakistan, convicted of blaspheming the Muslim prophet Muhammad. How common are these cases around the world?
Tragically, they're increasingly common. I think Pakistan is the worst situation for blasphemy laws. In our report, we identified 16 individuals in Pakistan who are on death row for allegedly blasphemous statements, and another 20 individuals serving life sentences. And they're not all Christians, they're also Muslims. But we've seen increasing cases in countries like Egypt. We've seen it in also other places like India and Greece. So it's a challenge to freedom of thought, freedom of religion, when you have governments deciding what is or isn't true, what is or isn't offensive.
The report also mentions authoritarian governments oppressing minorities. Tell us about some of the worst nations.
Well, China would be one for sure. Its treatment of a range of religious groups, including Uyghur Muslims, Tibetan Buddhists, also the underground house church movements, the Catholic Church. If you're not willing to play by the Chinese government rules, then you're going to be in for a world of hurt. Other countries like Saudi Arabia, where the policy is for only one form of Islam and all others face government repression and must practice their faith underground.
Okay.
And then also in Russia, we've seen increasing totalitarianism there that affects religious communities' ability to practice their faith freely.
Real quickly, last few seconds, have you seen any improvements in any countries when it comes to religious freedom issues?
You know, there are bright spots here and there around the world, but sadly the overall trajectory, I think, is a downward one. And there's a role that our government can play to help advocate for this fundamental human right.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much for your insights. Thanks for coming on the broadcast this week.
Thank you.
Up next, if you think you could never leave your child in the car, think again. Find out why this happens and what you can do to prevent it.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
The best way to achieve good health is combined diet and exercise. A new study from Stanford University asked people to reduce their intake of animal fat to 10% per day, eat 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, and exercise at least 2.5 hours a week. In the past, some experts have encouraged people to make one change at a time, diet or exercise. That led researcher in this study said, quote, "For some people that may be the approach, but we found that you may get the most bang for your buck by making these changes together." Well, warm weather is just around the corner, and that spells danger for babies who may be accidentally left in hot cars, where the temperature can climb more than 120 degrees in just 30 minutes. Although it's only the beginning of May, one case has already been reported. That baby was rescued in time and will survive. Lori Johnson looks at why these disasters happen and how technology can help prevent them.
May 25th, 2011. Brett and Christy Cavallero didn't know it, but that hot morning would be the last spent with their daughter, nicknamed Ray Ray. Brett had planned to drop her off at daycare on the way to work.
I took her to the truck with Brett, and we both put her in her car seat together.
Ray Ray fell asleep in the car. Brett forgot she was there.
Daycare is only about 300 yards to the left, and I drop her off, and then I circle back and continue on this way. Well, I took a right instead.
And so our tragedy revolves around one wrong turn.
My best guess is that when I made that right-hand turn, my mind was on autopilot. I'm now driving to work.
It wasn't until I picked Brett up for our lunch date that he remembered that he couldn't remember dropping her off at school that day.
And I said to my wife, "I think Ray's in my truck."
By that time, it was too late. Ray Ray had become one of nearly 300 children to die after being forgotten in a hot car.
If you think you would never forget your child is in the car and that only a bad parent would do that, think again.
The sad truth is any of us could do that.
Psychologist David Mitchell says our short-term memory only holds about 7 items at a time.
If you could picture almost like a glass, my short-term memory is a glass, and I pour my 7 items in there. In order for me to add more in there, some has to come out.
And our brains sometimes create false memories.
But in the short-term memory, the checklist, if you will, of the things that we have to do, if we are going through our mental checklist and something distracts us, something, pulls our attention, I'm in the middle of a thought, I'm trying to, figure something out, then our checklist, we may have gone through and actually checked off on our list something that we haven't done.
Forgotten infants are most often behind the driver in rear-facing car seats.
If anyone's ever seen that in a car, if you're the driver, you really can't tell if there's a baby in that car seat or not. I mean, it's not like their head sticks above the top, because if it does, it's if they're in the wrong car seat.
There are lots of things you can do to prevent this from happening to you. Just little habits, really. For instance, every time you get out of your car, just look in the car seat.
Always put your purse, briefcase, or computer next to the car seat. Also, keep a toy with the car seat at all times. When the baby is in the seat, put the toy up front with you. Brett and Christy Cavallero also came up with Ray Ray's pledge for daycare providers.
Should the child not arrive by his or her usual arrival time and a planned absence has not already been communicated, they will call one or both parents until they find out where that child's whereabouts are.
Even NASA got into the act when engineer Chris Edwards invented a car seat alarm.
Well, we had a local incident where a child died, and this was my way of dealing with it.
The alarm consists of this car seat sensor, which is activated by the weight of your baby in the seat. Another sensor with an alarm goes on your keychain. If you walk away from the car with your baby still in the car seat, the alarm goes off.
Probably 30 to 50 feet
Edwards calls his invention a simple way to save lives.
So the parts in it are very inexpensive. They're readily available, so it should be easy for a manufacturer to make a product out of them.
Other devices like this are currently on the market. And right now in Congress, there's a push to require manufacturers to install this type of life-saving technology.
If our vehicles can tell us if we've let our headlights on so we don't get a dead battery, I think it's equally, of course, more important to have a reminder so we don't have a dead baby.
But right now, it's up to the parents to put as many safety nets into place as possible. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. Then it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop. You save.
One runner in this year's Pittsburgh Marathon won't see a single step of the 26.2-mile course. That's because he's running the marathon blind. 44-year-old Mike Bruno's daughter, Cassie, is legally blind. He says he wants to run this marathon for her.
Well, I was walking a couple years back on the trail, and I attempted to walk with my eyes closed to experience what my daughter, Cassie, does on a daily basis.
Cassie was born premature. Her retina is still detached. Multiple surgeries have improved her condition, but her vision is still impaired. Bruno asked his friend Jim Irwin to be his sighted guide. That means the two will be running together, tethered. What a great story. Well, that is going to do it for this hour of the CBN News Channel. Tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Join us next time.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957. Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. click and read a commentary, or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.